To grow up on a farm is to know the value of a hard day's work. Young Henry Ford certainly knew that. Growing up in what is now Dearborn, Michigan, Henry experienced firsthand just how arduous farming could be.
The woman he would marry, Clara Bryant, was also well aware of the travails of farm life. Born 3 years after Henry in 1866, she grew up on farmland just 5 country miles from the Ford family. Clara and Henry met in 1885, were married in 1888, and settled on 80 acres of farmland given to them by Henry's father, William Ford.
Admittedly, Henry was more intrigued by how things work than by farming, so in 1891, the couple moved to Detroit, where he could pursue his automotive interests. But as an engineer, inventor, and businessman, Henry would remain committed to lessening the farmer's burden. As he later wrote in his autobiography, "To lift farm drudgery off flesh and blood and lay it on steel and motors has been my most constant ambition."
In fact, Henry began to think about tractors even before turning his attention to the automobile, and just 4 years after founding the Ford Motor Company in 1903, he built his first experimental tractor, which he called the automobile plow.
Further experimentation followed. In 1910, Henry applied for several patents on the tractor. By 1916, Edsel Ford was active in the family business, and he joined his parents on the board of a newly formed company, Henry Ford & Son Limited.
World War I was now underway in Europe, and food was desperately needed to feed thousands of troops, men who would ordinarily be employed in farming.
Relief came when the first mass-produced tractor, Henry and Edsel's Fordson, made its debut 100 years ago in 1917. It would revolutionize farming, first in Europe and then worldwide, by making it possible for farmers to harvest more land in less time and using less labor.
The Fordson wasn't the first tractor to market, but it was lightweight, manageable, and priced within reach of the average family farmer.
It is an overstatement to say that the Fordson was to farming what the Model T was to personal transportation. Once sales began in the U.S., it quickly became the most popular tractor in America, and importantly, helped to preserve our agricultural identity at a time when many young people were moving from the country to the city.
While Henry Ford was making automotive history again, Clara was making her own vital contribution as a strong proponent of the Woman's Land Army of America. The WLA Farmerettes, as they were known, mobilized to provide critical labor to help put food on American tables during the Great War. Ultimately, their efforts helped lead to passage of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which granted American women the right to vote.
When Henry Ford looked to expand his operation, he had only one location in mind for his first plant outside of North America, County Cork, Ireland, the birthplace of his father and home to his ancestors going back to the 16th century.
Irish production, however, was almost immediately sidelined after air raids in London. The factory would turn to producing essential airplane parts. Tractors would have to be built in Dearborn.
Model T and tractor production resumed in Ireland in 1919. Fordsons rolled off the line there until the 1930s, when tractor production moved to England. The Cork plant then focused on car and truck production until its closure in 1984.
Today, 100 years after the plant opened in Cork, Henry Ford & Son Limited still operates 60 Ford dealerships, and Ford proudly remains Ireland's #1 vehicle brand. The history of the tractor, and of agriculture in general, might have been far different had the Ford family not found inspiration and refuge in their Fairlane residence in Dearborn.
Fairlane kept Henry close to his farming roots and cultivated his love of nature. It was here that he designed, refined, and even field-tested the tractor.
Fairlane also saw Clara Bryant Ford blossom, not only as president of the Women's National Farm and Garden Association and Garden Club of America, but also as a champion of rural women who struggled with economic concerns.
Looking back, Fairlane truly proved to be fertile ground for the Ford family, where together, Henry, Clara, and Edsel sowed the seeds of success and grew a business that changed people's lives for the better.